This is the story of one of the most famous chemists who received the Nobel Prize for discovering the structure of the benzene ring. Our story begins in 1865 in the city of Kostroma. Our protagonist's father worked as a military doctor and was also interested in chemistry, which may have influenced his son's choice of profession. At school, our hero showed good results in science and math, but his grades in other subjects were poor. At the age of 12, he almost went blind due to an explosion in the chemistry lab at home. But this did not stop him from continuing his education. After graduating from high school, he entered St. Petersburg State University. Initially, the young man wanted to become a physicist like his idol, Michael Faraday. But after the first year, he switched to studying chemistry. During his studies, he became interested in organic chemistry and began to do research in this field. In 1884, he graduated from the university with honors and received the title of university teacher. And a year later, he defended his master's thesis on the synthesis of indigo. For this work, he was awarded the degree of Doctor of Sciences and since then has been known as one of the best chemists of his generation. In 1887, he got a job at the University of Zurich as a lecturer and assistant to the head of the department. 2 years later, he was offered a professorship at the University of Geneva, but he declined it in favor of a position at his alma mater. In 1893, he became the head of the chair of organic chemistry, and here he worked for the rest of his life. His lectures were always packed as the professor was a brilliant teacher who knew how to captivate students with his enthusiasm. He liked to tell them about his research, which at that time was mainly related to aromatic compounds. But before we move on to his most important achievement, let us return to the beginning of his career and his early research. As we have already mentioned, they were devoted to aromatic compounds, in particular to indigo, which at that time was produced exclusively by plants of the indigo genus, and its extraction was expensive and difficult. That is why several teams of scientists were engaged in its synthesis. One of them, led by Adolf von Baeyer, managed to synthesize indigo in 1883. However, the method was rather complicated and did not consist of simple steps. The Russian chemist decided to improve it, and in 1888, together with his graduate student Nikolai Zenin, he synthesized indigo in a simpler way. This discovery brought the scientist fame not only in Russia, but also abroad. In the same year, he was elected a corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Later, he would be elected a full member and serve on its council. Despite his success, the scientist's life was not easy. In 1901, he was diagnosed with diabetes, which at that time was considered a death sentence. But the chemist did not give up and lived another 35 years, during which he continued to work and travel around the world. Overcoming the disease allowed him to deeply understand the nature of chemical reactions and develop new ways of thinking about molecules. This was the basis for his most important achievement, the discovery of the structure of the benzene ring. Benzene is an organic compound with the formula C6H6. It is highly flammable and has a sweet odor. It is a highly important starting material in the chemical industry used to produce plastics, resins, synthetic fibers, and many other products. Before the Russian chemist studied its structure, its formula was unknown. There were several theories, but none could explain all the properties of the substance. The molecule was thought to be either a cyclohexene or a benzene ring. The chemist had to choose between these two options when he was asked to determine the molecular weight of benzene. It happened in 1902 and was entirely accidental. The chemist was trying to synthesize a new dye, but instead of the desired product, he obtained naphthalene. Although the experiment failed, he noticed something unusual. The molecule of the synthesized substance turned out to be exceptionally stable and did not react to any of the reagents. At that time, no one had studied the stability of aromatic compounds, and the scientist paid more attention to the synthesis of the dye. Only 10 years later, he remembered the unreactive substance and decided to study it. He found out that its molecules actually contained alternating double bonds, which explained their exceptional stability. Thus, the Russian chemist discovered the benzene ring and established its basic properties. For this discovery, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1906. It was the first time the award was given for research in organic chemistry. The prize money was 150,000 kroner, and the diploma said that it was awarded to the Russian chemist for his work on the connection and the value of benzene, which has greatly advanced the study of organic chemistry. Interestingly, the scientist learned about the Nobel Prize from the newspaper and thought it was a joke. It was his wife who made sure that her husband understood what was going on and persuaded him to go to Stockholm to receive the award. By that time, he had been ill for several years and could not even leave Russia. However, he recovered and in 1906, together with his wife, went on a trip to Sweden where he received the prize and gave a lecture at the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. There he met many famous scientists including Svante Arrhenius, who was one of the founders of physical chemistry and one of the first winners of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Back in Russia, the chemist continued his work. In addition to the benzene ring, he discovered several other important chemical compounds and studied the reaction of a Grignard reagent with aldehydes and ketones. He was also one of the first to use isotopes in chemistry. In 1908, he succeeded in synthesizing O&P, nitrochlorobenzene, which was previously obtained only from the Brazilian nut tree. This discovery was very important because the benzene ring is present in many biologically active substances such as alkaloids, flavonoids, hormones, and vitamins. The chemist's research helped to better understand the structure of complex organic molecules. During World War I, he organized the production of poisonous gases and participated in the work of the Chemical and Pharmacological Committee of the Main Directorate of Military Medical Services. In 1917, he was elected chairman of the Russian Chemical Society. A year later, he was arrested by the Bolsheviks along with his wife and imprisoned. They managed to get out of the country and settle in Berlin. Here, the couple spent 3 years in exile. The wife missed her homeland so much that she returned to Russia, but soon died there of typhus. The chemist was deeply affected by the loss, and this greatly undermined his health. Diabetes was exacerbated, and he had to be hospitalized several times. In 1921, he received a call from Italy where he was offered a professorship at the University of Rome. He accepted the offer and moved to Italy with his son. At first he worked in Florence, and in 1925 he transferred to the University of Rome, where he headed the Department of Organic Chemistry. But after a year he left Italy for good and settled in Denmark. He taught at the University of Copenhagen and worked at the Carlsberg Laboratory until his death. Throughout his life, the chemist published over 350 scientific papers, most of them on the chemistry of aromatic compounds. He also wrote several books, including Organic Chemistry, which went through several editions and was translated into many languages. The scientist was a member of several academies of sciences and a foreign member of the French Academy of Sciences. He was awarded numerous prizes and orders, including the Davy Medal of the Royal Society of London, the Matteucci Medal of the Italian Physical Society, and the Order of St. Vladimir. The Russian chemist died in 1934 at the age of 69. In his honor, one of the main lecture halls at Moscow State University was named, and a bust was erected in his hometown. The scientist's legacy lives on in the works of his students and the generations of chemists who followed him. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, check out our other videos which tell the stories of outstanding scientists. And that's all for today. See you soon.